Boxing truth here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Canelo Alvarez and how I feel that he is a better fighter than Golovkin's best win to date, which many feel is his last recent performance against Danny Jacobs. A somewhat of a struggle and going the distance against a weak chin Danny Jacobs, who was not showing any type of momentum or any type of form going into the fight with Golovkin. In fact, I was very surprised and very disappointed that Triple G couldn't do much physical damage to Jacobs, couldn't knock him out. In terms of, he marked his face up, jabbed the shit out of him, outboxed him, but there was no knockout, there was no big moments, there was no wobbly moments. It was a competitive fight that Jacobs hung in there. And Golovkin, as a result, came away with the fight as the victor, but in the end, it hurt his brand. It hurt his aura of invincibility. He no longer looks like the boogeyman, no longer looks like the dominant destruction that was going through the middleweight rankings, powering through and knockouts. Now, he looks more human than ever. And Boxing Truth is not impressed with the recent performance of Gennady Golovkin. Didn't look great in the fight. Was actually neutralized somewhat by Danny Jacobs. Wasn't able to land many power shots. Was very effective with his jab, but very inconsistent with his right hand, his left hook. Didn't go to the body much as well either, which hurt his performance against Danny Jacobs. And Canelo Alvarez, in my view, is a better fighter than Danny Jacobs. I mean, people are out there saying that Jacobs is a better fighter, but based on what? I mean, how can you say Jacobs is a better fighter than Canelo Alvarez without a legit argument? What is this based on? Jacobs, who has he beat in his career? What's his best win? Who was he fighting prior to Golovkin? All I saw was a bunch of cannon fodder opponents, hand-picked opponents. After his comeback, was climbing back up the rankings and was fighting very safe opponents for a number of years, until finally he stepped up a little bit and fought a very average fighter, but with some power, in Peter Quillen. Got a tremendous victory that people didn't expect from him. Peter Quillen was actually the favorite going into that fight. I have no idea why. Peter Quillen is one of the most trash fighters out there. I mean, it makes me want to do a comeback when somehow Peter Quillen can somehow be managed to win a world title, but that's the boxing business for you. They can match these weak fighters and turn them into contenders and make them become champions, but a manufactured champion like Peter Quillen, who just wasn't really that good. But I always knew Danny Jacobs was better than Quillen, which is why I picked him to win that fight. That fight happened before my channel started. And Jacobs, he was effective at limiting the damage against Golovkin, but I wasn't impressed with him offensively. And that's where Canelo brings more to the table. He's a much better offensive fighter than Golovkin. He's a better fighter, period. He's better defensively. He's better offensively. He's more dynamic offensively. He has the resume under his belt. He's got the meaningful wins under his belt. Jacobs got nothing but cannon fodder, hand-picked opponents, and an overrated Peter Quillen in a tough loss against Golovkin. That's his body of work. That's what he's accomplished in his career. Nowhere near the type of career and the type of victories Canelo has under his belt. Canelo is just a better fighter. Jacobs is a good, solid contender, top contender, but he's not a pound-for-pound level fighter. Golovkin is now going to fight his first elite fighter in his career. He's going to fight an 8-level fighter, pound for pound level fighter. And going into this fight, I'm much more impressed with Canelo Alvarez's form going into the fight compared to Gennady Golovkin. Golovkin hasn't had a great performance in quite some time. And in his biggest fights, he's failed to really deliver the type of performance to where you see him as potentially becoming a pound-for-pound king. His best fight to date was considered Danny Jacobs. He disappointed. Wasn't wowed, wasn't impressed. Won the fight, but didn't do a job on Danny Jacobs. And Canelo, even though he's not fighting the considered elite fighters out there, he's having way better performances. He's actually showing knockout power, as he's KO'd, slept 2 of his last 3 opponents. Yes, I'm aware Amir Khan was one of those opponents, but you have to see that Canelo is showing better form. He's having better performances. He's the faster guy. He's, in my opinion, the more dynamic fighter offensively. Golovkin has a great jab. He's got really good defense, but he's not as fast as Canelo, and he doesn't put his punches together as well as Canelo, which is going to make this fight very interesting. The question is, can Canelo match Golovkin's gas tank? And if he can, there's a reason why the odds makers see this as a true 50-50 fight. Golovkin's barely a favorite over Canelo Alvarez now. What a year can do for the change of opinions when it comes to this fight. Just over a year ago, most people would have picked Golovkin big. Now people are not so sure, not as confident, and only picking Golovkin based on familiarity with the track record he has in the middleweight division. But Canelo is really coming into his own in his absolute prime now, and he's showing the improvement in his recent fights, unlike Gennady Golovkin. Canelo Alvarez is better than Triple G's best win. Triple G needs a much more better performance than he's put out in his past couple of performances. He needs a lights-out performance. I'm still waiting on that against this type of fighter, this type of level of opposition, because Golovkin has yet to do it. He hasn't had that lights-out performance against this type of fighter. I'm much more impressed with Sergey Kovalev's wins against the top fighters that he beat compared to Golovkin. Very disappointing with Golovkin's statements about Kovalev. Could be a little hateration that Kovalev was getting much more recognition, was much closer to the pound-for-pound throne than Gennady Golovkin ever was. But now Kovalev is no longer in the picture, and now Golovkin is only getting steps closer into the pound-for-pound throne. But he's going to have to beat his first elite fighter to do it, a fighter that's steadily improving and really coming on in with a lot of momentum coming into this fight, much more compared to Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs, it was a miracle that he was able to be that competitive, and he was able to not get knocked out, considering the shaky and trash defense that he possesses. But he fought his heart out and was able to make Golovkin look human. But Canelo Alvarez is going to take it a step further. He's not going to be as defensive as Danny Jacobs. He's not going to be scared as Danny Jacobs was in the early rounds of that fight. Canelo Alvarez is coming for blood. He's going to try to rip Golovkin's head off. He will try to back Golovkin up, which is what you need to do in order to defeat Gennady Golovkin. You can't step away from Golovkin. You got to back him up. Make him... Let's see if Golovkin can fight going backwards. Let's see if he can deal with the pressure. And Canelo, he's got the combinations, the counters, and the body work to really put a dent in Golovkin. I've never seen Golovkin hurt. I've never seen him wobbled in a fight. He's had shown that he's felt a couple body shots in his career, but I've never seen him wobble. I've only seen Canelo Alvarez hurt once in his career, and that was when he was 19 years old fighting Miguel Cotto's brother. The first exposure he got on HBO. I've never seen him hurt since. Canelo is very strong, very durable, very skilled. And this could be this time to finally win the fight that he needs to win in order to even further enhance his legacy. He got that big win against an elite fighter, against Miguel Cotto. He got over the hump. Now he has a chance to do it against an even highly more recognized fighter in terms of recognition, higher on the pound-for-pound list, undefeated, multiple destruction performances, knockouts, a guy that's been feared in the middleweight division. Canelo will get more props if he was able to definitively defeat Gennady Golovkin. But this video is just about that I don't feel Jacobs is better than Canelo. Canelo will show that on September 16th when he's actually going to go in there and actually try to put some work on Golovkin, try to do a job, actually try to hurt him, which Danny Jacobs never really pushed the issue in his fight with Golovkin. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Do you actually think Jacobs is better than Canelo Alvarez? And what do you base that off of?